Is there a huge shift going on at the Pacific Ring of Fire? I mean, 4 major earthquakes, 7.8, 7.6, and stuff like this. And I already asked the question, is New Zealand next? And you've seen the video probably, and now we see an earthquake swarm that is traveling towards New Zealand. And this is important because it's the same area like the Tonga earthquake. So something's happening right now just northeast of New Zealand, guys. We need to talk about this, and it fits a pattern that we've been watching. So is there something bigger going on? Has that been triggered by the big earthquakes? There's now an earthquake swarm at the Kermadec Trench, and that is quite a concerning one. It's one of the deepest and most active subduction zones on Earth. We know the subduction zones are the dangerous ones that produce the tsunamis, the megathrust earthquakes along the Pacific Ring of Fire. This trench stretches for about 1,000 kilometers, so a little under 1,000 miles, 900 miles, from the Louisville Seamount chain all the way down to the Hikurangi Plateau that's off of New Zealand. And here's why that really matters, because this is the exact zone where the Pacific Plate is diving beneath the Australian plate. So all this is happening right now on top of this subduction zone, and that is what we don't like, right? If we see something like this. So this is not a small fault, to be clear. This is a mega subduction zone system capable of producing some of the largest earthquakes on Earth and tsunamis, and that at the doorsteps of New Zealand. So now I think you get where the things are starting to connect. In the past few days, still days, we've seen major earthquakes in Tonga, Vanuatu, Indonesia, over 1,000 aftershocks. It's crazy. All along the Pacific Ring of Fire, all of them along major subduction zones. And now that swarm appears. Now that swarm is there along the same tectonic system just further south than what we've seen at Tonga. So the Tonga Trench, I have to say, because the Tonga Trench, the Kermadec Trench, and the Hikurangi margin, they're not separate. That's the issue that I'm having here. They're not separate. They're part of one continuous structure, the Tonga Kermadec Subduction Zone. That's the name, Tonga Kermadec Subduction Zone. It's one of the fastest converging plate boundaries on Earth. So the subduction there is way faster than in other zones, subduction zones, Japan, Kamchatka, Alaska, west coast of the US and Canada. Pacific plate here is being forced down at a rate of 7 to 9 centimeters per year. That's a lot, right? That's extremely fast if we're talking tectonic terms. And the problem is when the stress releases in one segment, and it has with the Tonga earthquake, it can redistribute the stress along the entire zone. So it's not instantly like domino stones, right, that are falling, but it's enough to load the neighboring sections. And especially if neighboring sections might have been close to rupture already, that can cause trouble. So the question is this activity moving south, or is this now a coincidence? Because if it does, then that's the thing. If it does, guys, the next major section along this system is New Zealand. It is New Zealand, specifically the Hikurangi subduction zone off the east coast of the North Island. This zone is capable of producing massive mega thrust earthquake. That's the name we're afraid of, mega thrust earthquakes and tsunamis. Now let's be very clear. I want to say that swarm that we're seeing here does not mean that a major quake is guaranteed. Most swarms release stress, but sometimes they mark a segment that is adjusting before something larger. And the problem is, New Zealand doesn't just sit on a subduction zone. It also sits on the Alpine Fault. That's a dangerous one. It's a major plate boundary running through the South Island. And that fault is responsible for some of the largest earthquakes in New Zealand's history. I released a video yesterday about a lake that could have a lake tsunami because a mountain could collapse because of the Alpine Fault. Absolutely insane. I put it in the end screen. Problem with the Alpine Fault is it's considered overdue. So if big shaking is happening near something that is overdue, I want to explain it a little bit. So imagine a cliff. Or imagine something like Blatten, if you've seen it. Blatten, the mountain that was coming down, right? The glacier that was coming down. First, the glacier came down, the mountaintop came down, fell on the glacier, and that weight was triggering the glacier. So let's say the Tonga quake was the mountain coming down, falling on the glacier. The glacier is already overdue to collapse. Now we've got the shaking from the mountaintop. That is shaking the glacier, making it more unstable, and then poof, everything came down. So that is what I mean. The Alpine Fault is overdue, and now seismic waves travel. Not super strong, but they travel, and they could give it the last so that it's sliding. You know what I mean? So right now, New Zealand is in a, we can call it unique position to the northeast. Highly dangerous and active subduction system, Kermadec Hikurangi, and running through the country a major strike-slip fault, the Alpine Fault, strike-slip, like the San Andreas Fault. Alpine Fault is not a subduction zone. So we have two different tectonic systems, and both capable of producing large earthquakes. So now, are they directly connected is the question. Not in a simple or immediate way, that's the answer, but they are part of the same plate boundary network between the Pacific plate and the Australian plate. And if we're just flying over to the west coast of the US and Canada for a second, new research proves that the subduction zone, the dangerous Cascadia Fault, and the strike-slip fault, San Andreas Fault, have triggered each other in the past. You know what I'm hinting at? So definitely, the Kermadec Hikurangi subduction zone might be able to trigger the Alpine Fault, right? It's the same plate boundary network between the Pacific plate and the Australian plate. And when you start seeing large earthquakes to the north, followed by activity that's migrating along the trench, that's when the scientists start watching very, very closely. Because this suggests that stress is being redistributed along the boundary. Right now, the only thing that we're seeing, it's a swarm, but it is happening in one of the most critical seismic zones on Earth. And it's happening after major large quakes nearby. So the question is, it isn't panic, but the question is this just random? Or are we watching a system under increased stress that could result into something? I will watch this for you guys. Hey, and maybe you want to watch what's going on in Campi Flegrei, because there's a new interview with a highly regarded professor and expert on this. And he says, well, you're just collecting data, but you're completely not telling us what is going on or giving us any interpretation that makes sense. So this is alarming. It's here in the end screen. I hopefully see you there in a second. Please like and hype the video. Thank you for your support. If you want to fill me up with coffee, link is in the description. Click the join button for behind the scene videos, my private life, and you support the channel that way. And thank you for your supers for watching, sharing, liking, and all the thing, you know it. And subscribe if you're new here. Welcome. I hope you stay. See you here in a second. Bye-bye.